Welcome back to Sevenfold Design Technology. In this particular tutorial for Grasshopper, we're going to be taking a look at how to understand an existing surface and look at documenting and analyzing different groups of panels based off of the color of that panel. So I'll show you how to structure your data based off of something that's already been baked out, panels that have already been grouped into different types, and now you're looking to document that and analyze it. So this is more of structuring your data. So let's go ahead and take a look at the final product. So this is pretty much a dot cloud. And if you looked at the other tutorial, which I can drop a link to right now, just look in the upper right section of the YouTube in the cards, we developed the analytics for the surface curvature. But now basically this is going ahead and taking each of these different types, dropping a 3D dot on that type, and colorizing it when it's baked out so that you can see which group of panels are together, and they should be the same type. This happens to be for curvature analysis, so this isn't necessarily geometry. Okay, so this is pretty much the exercise. It's really short. Here is the finished script. It's just a couple of components, super easy. Definitely have Elephant downloaded, and that's the only plugin you're gonna need. I also recommend Pufferfish. We'll use that once. Okay. So let's go ahead and launch up Grasshopper and start a fresh script. So if you go to the Elephant tab and start from left to right, we're going to go to reference and say reference by layer. And if you followed along in the previous tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and turn off these panels. And we baked it out inside of analysis. So here is that analysis from the previous tutorial. And to get all the geometry on that one layer, I can just pull up the panel with quotes, do it. It's case sensitive, feed that in. And what I'm going to be getting back is all the geometry on that layer. And because I know that that layer was created for the specific purposes of this analysis, I know that I'm not getting any additional geometry that I'm not expecting. So here's all those meshes that we baked out in that previous tutorial. And now I just want to figure out, it's just a big flat list that doesn't have any branching. So how do I start to make sense of this? Well, what we want to do is first, I'm going to go up to attributes and say get Rhino attributes. And if you feed in your geometry, you're getting out the name, the layer it's on, and the color. And the color is the one we're actually going to be grouping by. Now this, if you're using Rhino Inside or any data, you could also go and say get object attributes. You could get a user value if you're using user text. So this doesn't have to be by color. The same method can be applied from any data that's attached to your geometry. So keep that in mind as we go forward. This isn't tied to just one method. Okay, so I've got a flat list coming out. I've got a whole bunch of colors coming out now. What we want to do is go to the Sets tab, go to Set, Create Set, and if I feed that in, it's going to go and find all the unique values within that entire list. This happens to be those 20 colors that we defined in a previous tutorial, but this is a whole separate script for documentation. And the next thing we can do is we just go to set member index, and we say go ahead and look through this whole set of colors for each of these members. Okay, and what that's going to give me is the index for each of those, and it's going to go ahead and branch it. So if I just take a viewer, the first branch here is going to be aligned with the first value in that set. So 160, 217, 92 is going to be this first branch. And if I want to see this a little bit better, I can just right click and simplify, and that's going to put branch 0 like that. Okay, let's go ahead and organize our meshes and our colors. So the final step to organize this by branch is just to pull up a list item. And I'm going to use these indexes here for the I input, and I'm going to feed the colors in. So now that's going to take all that data and put it on its correct branch. So I like to override this name, go ahead and say organized colors, and then I'll go ahead and alt-drag a copy and feed in my geometry and rename that organized meshes. If I want to get an idea of if I've done this step properly, what I like to do to visualize this in Grasshopper is pull out one of these branches at a time and take a look just to see if it's highlighting things as I'm expecting. So to pull out just one branch at a time, you can go to tree branch, the tree branch right here. And this is asking for a tree, which is just my meshes. And then the next step is finding just one branch at a time. So I can do that by pulling up statistics, tree statistics. This is giving me the sort of, phone number. That's not the technical term. It's the branch path, right? I think of it as just an address for where that data lives. It's the home address of the data. But now I can, from that list, I can go ahead and just pick out one of those at a time. So to do that, I'll do list item, feed in that list of paths. By default, it's 0. And if I want to shift that, I can just do a slider from 0 to 20. And as I start to slide this along, it's going to pick up a different branch up here. Okay. So that's what I'm going to feed into my path here. And now you can see it's just getting one branch at a time, in this case, branch number 7. Now to visualize that, I'm going to go to mesh and do mesh edges. Mesh edges right here. And the only edges I'm going to need is this E subvoid naked edges. Okay, and if I take a look at the output here, just checking out the panels, you can see per branch I'm getting 4 lines, which are the outside bounds of that edge. So just to make it one line, you can probably skip this step if you need to, but I typically just join those curves into a single closed polycurve. And then the final step is go to human and display, and then custom preview line weights. So the reason I like this one over the standard preview is you have this thickness display. So when I feed that in, I can override the weight of this to be like 3 or 4. And then I'll just grab a unique color. So if I just type in swatch and give it a color like a blue or whatever your favorite color is, now you can see really clearly that set of panels. Okay, so I should be seeing the same orange for all these. All right, so this is great and it's helpful, but there's a better way to get this visualization to really confirm that we've got everything. Generally speaking, this is a quick indicator that, yep, I'm getting all the same greens together, but we're going to take it one step further to be a little bit more precise. Okay, so to do that, I want to put dots. Okay, this is the outcome. Define a text dot. And this also is an elephant component. I believe there's some built-in ones here. Anyway, tag 3, you can do text if you want. I prefer dots. What this needs is just the text to put in, a point to put it at, a font if you want to care to specify that, and then the size. So let's start from top to bottom. So the font, the text is actually what, for me, I want to say which panel type that is. So let's go ahead and just create some text here. So I've got all my colors here, and those are my unique values from my set. So I'm going to extract the index number of each of these and call that panel type. So to do that, I'm going to pull up a list indices component. So a pufferfish component right there. And feeding that in, you can see it's just going to give me those numbers back as list items. Then I'm gonna right click and actually I like to do this explicitly. So I'll say x plus 1, but you can just do an expression x plus 1, which increments that up 1. And then I'm gonna concatenate by adding in that ampersand and feeding that into B. And then the prefix I'm gonna add is just quotes and say panel type. And what I realized, this is actually the last step when I bake out. So let me circle back on this. So the actual text is just the number. I'm not gonna make it super heavy by saying panel type 1. I'm just gonna do the number itself. So that's the text. I'm gonna feed that directly into T. Now I need to locate it. So I need a point. I'm gonna go ahead and get that by getting the midpoint or the area center point of each of my meshes. So just go to mesh area, organize the meshes. Okay, that's getting that center point. And now take the C, which is the centroid, and feed that into the P. Okay. All right. It's important that you do it here. I missed a step. So one important step we got to do is we need to not forget, we need to make sure that only number 1 is landing on the first branch. So you remember with this whole branch business, we need to make sure that number 9 branch is always getting the number 9 number. Okay, so to do that, we actually need to graft each of these values. That's graphed. And that's going to put each of them on their own branch. Then when I feed that in, I need to just double check to make sure that the branches are aligned. So 0, 0, 0 should be lining up with the points here. And they are not. So I can right click and simplify. Or I could just unsimplify this part. Yeah, so see, just simplify is easier to read, but if I hadn't done that step there, everything would still be lined up. So I just kept it the way it was without adding any special overrides. Okay, so now I've got one branch, and it's okay that there isn't duplicates for each of these list items in each branch. One value is fine for the text we're going to specify. So, okay, we've got that. We're going to feed it in, going in the text. Got my areas right there. And I should be seeing something happen already. So let me turn off this analysis quick and hide a couple components. Okay, cool. So you can see we're getting the 1s in there. There's some 2s in there. And then if I use my little preview business, I should be seeing all of these come together at the same. So everything in the blue right now should be 10. Okay. And that would confirm that it's working. So I can just shuffle this. Now this is all the 9s. You can see there, all the 9s are inside. Cool. So this is just a quick kind of double check method. Okay, awesome. So if I wanted to keep kind of fiddling around with this, I could. And it looks like it's working. Great. So the final step is just to bake this out. Each of these dots currently is red, but I can actually give that a color on the time of baking. So instead of just taking it at the default, if this is too big, you can also change the size. So I could make it like 10-point font. That's going to be relative to the size of your screen. So you can see if I just plug in 10, that makes it a little bit more legible. Won't take too much time on formatting. Let's go back to Elephant and then just drop in our define object attributes. We'll do bake objects. We'll feed the attributes into the A. And then I'll go ahead and group each of these. So just type in group. And if we want to double check, yep, if everything per branch is going to get grouped, which is perfect. So every text dot of the same type will get grouped together. If you flatten this, then everything would be one massive group, but because we have branches, it'll be grouped by type. Okay. We'll feed that into the geometry, and then finally we just need to feed this color input, which is going to be our organized colors back here. Feeding that into color. And then the final step I talked about was actually defining a sublayer for each of these panel types too. So if you wanted to do that, I'm going to create a parent layer and just call it, let's just call it panel analysis. And then I'll concatenate that. And then just feed in this here. And just make sure you add two colons right there to create that sublayer effect. So now I should be getting a unique layer name for each of my panel types. All right. So now if I just feed that into my layer name and check this out, I'll just move this off to the side when we bake. Take a look over here when I hit bake. So all those just added. If you had some issues with the space there, you just have to make sure you add that space in the bake, in the panel. And then if I wanted to redo that bake, I could just undo over here in Rhino, click in space, hit Control Z. That's going to undo that process if I screwed up. And then just double check your data and then rebake. And then that's populating as anticipated. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at what we got. There is all of our beautiful text dots colorized based on the type. The only thing I didn't do in this particular instance was try to sort each of these colors aligned to the gradient that we had in the last tutorial. That's kind of an extra credit, so if you really want to do a challenge. But at least we have our different types kind of all grouped off and organized together. Yeah, so all right. That was pretty stinking sweet. The whole purpose of this is to help you focus your attention on areas of your project that need further consideration and potentially need to make design adjustments to see if this is not feasible, or if it is feasible, you know, what's the cost implications. So definitely engage your structural engineer and use this as a communication tool to help focus the conversation. Hey, did you survive that one? That wasn't as bad as the last one, right? I think it was pretty useful, and this is one of those communication tools that I find extremely useful when in conversations with different types of people, that it's not just a pretty picture, it's not just winning the project, it's actually using this as a way to understand your surfaces, get them ready for fabrication, constructability, and understanding where you can actually make this a reality. So, you know, if it's not possible, if it's going to cost too much, you're going to be able to know because you were making certain decisions all along the way. And this is one of those tools that can help you in that communication process. So now you start to know a little bit more around what we mean when we say data-driven design. This is kind of some of the things that we are starting to do in architecture a lot more. So if you're curious to continue to learn stuff just like this or other stuff, anything design technology related in architecture, I'm looking to cover it here at Sevenfold. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to learn next. And as always, stay curious, my friend, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Also, don't forget, like, subscribe, live events. I'm going to be doing more live streams where you can come on, do workshops, get your questions asked and answered in that environment. You can interact directly with me here on the channel. Super excited for that. So, you know, if you turn the notification bell on, you'll see when that's coming up. I'll try to be good about sending out emails. So if you go over to the BIM Academy and get signed up for a free account, or you subscribe for the newsletter, either way, I will be notifying you through email if and when those live streams are happening. So keep an eye out for that. I definitely don't want to be burdening you with more email than you need. So please use your preferred email address so that I can let you know and you'll be informed. So I'm not a fan of getting lots of email, and so I don't send lots of email. It's only when it really matters. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, I'm stoked to be building content, and would love to keep getting ideas. So let me know what you're looking to be making next. Right? Cool. Have a wonderful day wherever you might be in the world, and as always, stay curious, my friend, and we'll see you in the next one.